Merry Christmas and happy holidays, folks. 'Tis the season for wood fire flavor. Hope you got your mistletoe hanging high, because today's episode is going to be... So let's get started. Have you ever wondered how to get the most out of your pit boss? Welcome to Fully Loaded, where I teach you how to unlock the full potential of your Pit Boss grill. Learn new recipes and pick up strategies to cook full meals. Load those grills to the max and unleash flavor like never before with expert tips and tricks. Pit Boss Fully Loaded is your ultimate grilling guide. All right, on today's episode, we're going to be doing some holiday favorites and fully loading our Pit Boss grills. We're going to be doing some bone-in turkey breast, some prime rib, and some cedar plank salmon. All right, first things first, we're going to move right into our bone-in turkey breast. Some of the items we're going to be using today, we're going to be using our competition rub, and we're also going to be making an injection with our chicken and poultry rub. All right, the first step that we're going to get ourselves into with our bone-in turkey breast, we're going to be making our injection. It's very simple today. We're going to be using 2 cups of chicken broth that is low sodium or unseasoned. This broth, I had it heated to somewhere about 120, 130 degrees. The reason why I'm doing this, so when I put our dry rub in and our fresh herbs, it'll dissolve the spices into the liquid and also steep the herbs before we strain it and put it into our injector. So here we got about a tablespoon of fresh chopped rosemary and about a tablespoon and a half of fresh chopped oregano. 1 tablespoon of our chicken and poultry spice rub. And then we're just going to whisk this together and we're going to let it sit down to room temperature before we strain it and put it into our injector. So we just kind of give this a little once over. You can kind of visually see when your salts and solids dissolve. Once we do that, we can set that off to the side and then we can clean our birds and get ready for our injection. Room temperature somewhere between 75, 78 degrees, you'll be fine. You just don't want it to be hot when you're injecting your bird. So we're going to set this off to the side. Okay, as you'd seen in one of our previous episodes, bone-in turkey breast, just so it sits nice in our rack inside of our vertical, I'm going to flip it over and we're going to cut this rib part off the back and we're going to remove the wishbone, which is going to make it a whole lot easier for removing the breast off the bone after the cooking process. And removing the rib cage is going to allow it to sit more level and cook more even while it's on the grill. So normally right here on the inside, you can see where there's a natural separation where the ribs come together. I'll just follow that down on both sides. You can just kind of feel the snap on it. And then right where the natural separation is, just kind of cut through it with your scissors. Now when I flip it over, as you can see, it's going to sit nice and level. What we're going to do now is remove any excess skin from around the breast. So all I'm doing is just snipping away the excess skin and what little wing meat is left on the breastbone. Now, as shown in our last episode, you can see and feel where our wishbone follows down. What we're going to do is take a nice sharp boning knife and we're going to follow it on both the top and the bottom of the wishbone on both sides. Once you make those 2 cuts, you can feel in here where the natural separation is. Once you feel where the wishbone connects, you're going to want to snip straight down on it and right underneath. This should make it really easy for you to remove this wishbone. There we go. Now that we have this one right here, I'm going to want to dry it off real good and let it sit while we fab out our second breast. Now that we're at this point, we're going to dry the skin off. We're going to move into the next step, which is injecting our turkey breast. Some might be asking, why are we not brining our turkey? You can brine inject. This particular time we're kind of running short on time and didn't really have space in the refrigerator for, you know, allow for the brine process. And so injecting, you're going to get a similar result, and it will still impart good flavor. And so to our nice little goodie bag, we've already strained our injection and put it into our spritzer and injector tool. One thing I did forget to mention is that these turkey breasts are about 7 pounds each before I remove the rib cage. Inside of here we have about 12 ounces of injection. That's probably going to be all that we need, and I'll show you stopping points as to when you want to stop injecting. So normally I would like to start at the thickest part closest to the bone. And you can see how it'll swell. You don't want to put so much injection into where you can see it pour out the bottom. You just want to move in small little areas and watch it expand. So about 5 or 6 injection points throughout the breast should probably be enough. And again, we're going to start over here on this side of the breastbone. You can see the breast swell. All right. Now that we're here, we're just going to give it a few more pumps so we can move into our next breast. Start right in the center. Look for a swell. All right, that's what we got about in there. Got about maybe 2 ounces left in here. Our breasts are injected. Now we're going to move right into oiling the skin and seasoning it with our seasoning before we put it on our vertical Pit Boss. All right, we're into our next phase of this. We're going to lightly rub our skin with some avocado oil and season generously with our competition rub before moving into our vertical. A little bit goes a long way, so you just put a little bit on there. One hand for seasoning, one hand for touching your bird to avoid cross-contamination. It's about what you're looking for. Again, just a nice even coat right over the top. And kind of tilt it up on its side, on each side, so we can get an even coat on each side. Now that we're right here at this stage, we have ports for 2 temperature settings, and we're going to be having 4 pieces of protein on our vertical today. So we're going to pull out our wireless Pit Boss thermometer, and we're going to use this one for our turkeys today. When inserting your probe, again, as mentioned before in other episodes, you're going to want to go into the thickest part of the protein, closest to the bone, but without touching it. Again, thickest part of the breast, close to the breastbone without touching. And that's about what you're looking for. Now it's time to fire our turkey breasts off. We have our Pit Boss set at 350 degrees today. This is what we're going to be cooking our turkey breast and our prime rib on at the same time. All right, now it's time to get our station cleaned up, and we're going to move right into our prime rib. All right, guys, now we're going to move right into our next center plate item for our holiday meal. We're going to be doing prime rib. Meats provided by our friends over at Meats by Lens. You can read the description below to find out more. Some of the things we're going to be using on our prime rib today, we're going to be using our Pit Boss butcher twine. We're also going to be using our prime beef rub. So As you can see, when we receive this, there's going to be very little fabrication needed for this, and so we're just going to simply unwrap it. We're going to truss it in 3 points. We're going to rub it with a little bit of avocado oil and season it with our prime beef rub, and we can move right onto the smoker with this. Right. Right, there's number one. These two half prime ribs, they're about 6 to 6.5 pounds each. You consider between 8 to 10 ounces per person when you're trying to calculate how much you're going to need for your dinner. The more proteins you have, the less you would have to calculate. There we go there. Right into our butcher's twine. I'm going to do 6 pieces about this long. Now that our butcher twine is cut, I'm just going to kind of set it off to the side like so. Fresh glove, just going to move these over to the side. Then we're just going to kind of lay our butcher twine out like so. Then all you're really going to want to do is just kind of lay your loins out to where, like so. So you got one in the center. I always like to start in the center and work my way out. Simple butcher's knot, like so. Trim the excess off. Some might ask why I'm trussing the prime rib like so. So on the ribeye you have a natural separation from the eye from what's called the lip. If you don't truss it and you're roasting at a higher temperature, like at 350 degrees like we are, you'll notice the cap would want to come off the backside. When you truss, this keeps this from happening and also allows for a more even cook. Number one is done. Very simple. We're just going to baste with a little bit of avocado oil. A little bit goes a long way, much like on the turkey breast. Just going to get a nice even coat all the way around on each of our prime ribs. Again, a little bit goes a long way. All right. We're going to move right into our prime beef rub. Give it a nice healthy coat. All sides. All right, now that we're nice and evenly coated with our seasoning on our prime rib, we're gonna go ahead and insert our temperature probes. We're gonna shoot for the center of the loin, not through the top, but on the outside so we can get an accurate temperature reading. So simple as it may be, right in the center. Go into where your temperature probe is gonna be right in the center. Alright, now that we're at this point, we can transition and place our prime ribs onto our vertical smoker. Look at how our turkey breasts are moving right along, folks. All right, now that our prime ribs are rolling, we're gonna give them about 45 minutes to an hour, or until they come up to about 100 degrees before we move into our next entree, the cedar plank salmon. Our temperature probe just went off. We are at an internal temperature of 155 degrees on our turkey breast. We're ready to pull these and allow these to rest. Let's get right to it. Yeah, folks. All right, now we're just going to remove our temperature probes. About a half an hour to 45 minutes for our turkey breast to rest before we carve into them. All right, guys, our prime rib is already at its 100 degree mark. That's our cue to fire off our cedar plank salmon. So first, we're going to be doing whole sides of cedar plank salmon. And so what I have here is some 3/4 inch Western red cedar. Make sure you do research before you buy cedar to make cedar plank salmon. I got this from a local lumber yard, and it has not been treated. All I did was sand it with 200 grit sandpaper, and we soaked it in water before we decide to cook on it. Most importantly, before you do cook on your salmon, it's wise to preheat your boards. And so what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna place our boards on our smoker, then we're gonna move into the seasoning of our sides of salmon. So here we go. All right, so as far as our salmon, I went to our local grocery store and sourced two sides, about 2.25 pound sides of salmon, and I had the skin removed and the belly removed. I'm sure if you ask nicely, your butcher will do that for you as well. And so what I'm gonna do is just lay this here, and then we're gonna reach into our stocking and see what we're gonna be using on this today. Maple chipotle. So how we're going to be preparing our salmon today, we're going to season it with our maple chipotle, and we're going to coat it with a little bit of butter before we place it on the cedar planks and allow that to bake about halfway. Then we're going to glaze it with our sweet heat barbecue rub that I doctored up with a little bit of raspberry puree and chipotle puree to give it a little bit more kick and a little bit of fruity side for our salmon. So without further ado, let's glove up and we'll move forward on this. All right, maple chipotle. We're not going to go too heavy on this, just to give it a nice little coat for a season. All right, guys, we waited about 15 to 20 minutes for our cedar planks to preheat. We're gonna pull them out, and we're gonna place our salmon on there and baste it with a little bit of butter, and we're gonna go right back on the smoker. Keep our salmon from sticking to our plank, I'm just going to put a little bit of butter on the surface of the plank before we place our salmon on there. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. It goes a long way. Just enough to keep it from sticking. This does not keep it from imparting any flavor. Cedar plank salmon, you might wonder, it does offer a very unique flavor profile to the salmon, and it kind of fits with the holiday cheer, you know, the scent, the flavor while you're cooking it. Very enjoyable. So now I'm just gonna take each side, place it on the cedar plank, like so. I'm gonna baste the salmon side with just a little bit more butter, and we're gonna fire it off on our Pit Boss grill. And there we go. Got our grill set at 275 degrees. This should not take any longer, between 15 to 20 minutes to smoke before we get to our halfway mark. And we're gonna glaze it. All right, guys, our internal temperature on our prime ribs had reached our targeted temperature of 120 degrees. It's time to remove these things. All right. Okay, so on prime rib, we typically shoot for a medium rare to a medium temperature. You may ask why we pulled it at between 118 and 120 degrees, because a cut of meat this large, it's going to continue to cook after you remove it from the grill. And so now is our rest period. We're going to let it rest for the duration until our salmon is done on the other grill, and then we can get right into carving and serving. All right, guys, we're at our 20-minute mark on our cedar plank salmon. We're going to remove these, and we're going to put our fancy raspberry barbecue glaze on top of it. We're going to place it back on the grill just to make that glaze set. All right. Here we go. As you can see, a little bit goes a long way. We don't need to use a whole lot. Just to add a slight fruity, smoky dynamic to our cedar plank salmon. All right, let's go right back onto our smoker. All right, guys, now we're gonna carve into our turkey breast. It's been resting for just over about a half an hour. It's still warm to the touch. We're gonna get our plates out. Take one of these in our showcase. And just like we showed you before, when we remove that wishbone, it's gonna make it a whole lot easier to cut on each side of this breastbone to take our breast right off. Here we go. Yes, you can see just how moist that turkey meat is. Move right into the other one. Just follow that collarbone all the way down. All right. Juicy turkey. Basic injection. We're just gonna slice it. You can see how moist our bird is. Nice and rested. And here you have it, folks. 2 bone-in turkey breasts. Basic chicken broth injection, flavored with some herbs and some of our spice rub. All for the grabbing. Alright guys, our prime rib has rested for about a half an hour. We're gonna go ahead and carve into this and not keep everyone waiting. So first thing we're gonna do is cut our truss off. There we go. Merry Christmas. Prime rib, meats by Lynn's to you. Happy holidays, folks. All right, folks, and last but not least, it's time to pull off our cedar plank salmon. All right, so as you can see, it's not soft to the touch, it's semi-firm. So what we can do is that we're gonna slice it in portions so where somebody can come through and they can spoon off whatever they would like off the platter. All right, we're gonna finish this off with a little bit of lime zest. Last but not least, a little bit of chive. Now we're just gonna ever so gently split it right down the center. Nice sharp knife. All right, you have it. There you have it, folks. Got a raspberry barbecue glaze cedar plank salmon for your Christmas holiday dinner. All right, guys, there you have it. Another fully loaded in the books to impress all of your friends and family at the holiday time. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment below what you'd like to see in future episodes. Merry Christmas, folks, and have a great New Year.